So I'm not really skilled with 3D design, so I'm sticking with 2D elevations. Not really skilled at any of this, so really want to make this as interactive as possible. If you want to leave some comments and tell me, what you think I'm doing right, what you think I'm doing wrong, and we can kind of improve this together. Some context: this tiny house build is, a stepping stone towards a larger goal. It may not be a forever home, so we wanted to limit it to sub 100 so that we could minimize the cash expenditure. And because we're first time builders, make it as achievable as possible. Finding designs for a sub 100 was very difficult. There's not a lot out there. We did land on the Salsa box by Shelterwise, but there was a few design elements that we didn't love, so we ended up creating our own. So we'll walk through that design right now, and hope you enjoy it. So we followed the general layout of the Salsa box by Shelterwise, but we made a few changes. So we kept the entry door, but we made it into a full light door to bring in some extra light. We kept the galley kitchen and the bathroom on the other side, but we added a full light bathroom door, again for the same purpose. We have a window on either side, and in our sleeping quarters, living room area, we added a large back window. Because this is on a deck over trailer, it's going to be a single story with no loft. The deck over trailers are a little bit higher because the deck sits on top of the wheels. Overall, the building height is 109 inches. The trailer is 36 inches tall. So that's a total of 145 inches, or roughly 12 feet, which is well below the 13 and a half foot maximum for trailer height. We're going to be doing a flat EPDM roof, which is essentially a pond liner. The materials are really hard to find, by the way. You can try out bestmaterials.com, which is a website I took a risk on. It worked out okay. I can include the link below. A flat roof isn't exactly flat. It still has a slope. The slope can be a minimum of a 1/4 inch per foot. So in this case, it is 2 inches tall on one side, sloping to nothing on the other side. So that's 2 inches over 8 feet. There's multiple ways to build a flat roof. We didn't want to have different size walls, so we're going to be doing a furring strip right here that you can see kind of slopes down. This will just be a small piece of wood, probably a 2x4 that we cut at a slope at an angle and lay on top of the roof rafter. This is our simple roof deck. It's going to use 2x6 lumber. It's 24 inches on center. On top of here, we're going to put a Huber product called Advantech, which is a 23 over 30 seconds thickness tongue and groove subfloor, which is rated for 24 inch on center. Our decision to go with 24 on center is essentially so that the structure requires less lumber overall to help control weight. We made some decisions that negatively impact weight, which we'll talk about later. So we had to offset that somehow. But to ensure structural integrity, we are using a yellow pine, which in the case of a roof can span a 2x6 can span the length of 8 feet and 3 inches, whereas our roof rafters are only going to span 7 3/4 feet. So we felt comfortable with that. It's super important that the roof rafters align directly with the wall studs, which you can see here. The reason for that is they need to transfer their weight efficiently straight down through the wall studs and then to the foundation, which is the trailer in this case. So we continued the 24 on center methodology here, and we're also using some advanced framing techniques, which I can leave a link below to some of those techniques. For instance, we are going to hang the headers, which means we don't need jack studs underneath them to support. And we'll be using California corners and some other techniques. It's a little bit of a mixed bag though, because we're still using, for instance, a double top plate instead of a single top plate. The reason for that, frankly, is because I found a great Simpson strong tie product that connects the roof rafters to a double top plate to a wall stud. And I think that's just going to create an awesome amount of structural integrity. The wall studs will be 2x4s. In advanced framing, it's usually recommended that you go with a 2x6 or greater, but we didn't want to lose the space, seeing that it's a tiny house, and we didn't want to add the extra weight. So to help with racking, we're going to put in some X pattern with metal strapping, and we may do some blocking here, but that would obviously add some weight. So we're just going to see how that feels when we get to that point. Then for uplift, we're going to install some Simpson strong tie HTT5s, which connect to the wall studs, and then bolt the bottom plate through the trailer, through the subfloor to the trailer, so that there's no movement at all. On the front wall, we'll be unable to use those, so we're just going to put in some floor screws that are about 3.5 inches long and essentially do the same thing, but they thread into the trailer. The subfloor isn't represented here, but we're going to use the same Avantech subflooring, the tongue and groove, that's going to sit on top of metal joists that are part of the trailer. Those joists are 16-inch on center. That's the only place that we're using 16-inch on center, but that's a consequence of the trailer's design. We're going to use metal flashing, like many other tiny house builds, to create a bed pan and then fill that bed pan with insulation. We're going to use a 2-inch foam board and then a 3 inches of rock wool, simply because the joists are 5 inches tall. So it was a good combination to fill those up. In the walls, we're going to use the same 3-inch rock wool, and then in the ceiling, we'll use a 5.5-inch rock wool. In both cases, that'll leave about a 1/2 inch of room for air circulation. We'll put a vapor barrier down on the floor and the roof, but on the walls, for sheathing, we're going to use a zip system, which is another Huber product, and that has a built-in vapor barrier like coating on it, which eliminates the need for a house wrap. So here you can see the zip system sheathing layered on top, and that's lined up with our wall joist. They make this product in 4x10 plywood sheets, which is super nice because we'll just lay them up and then trim them at the top to length. The way that this system works is you essentially take an acrylic tape and tape the seams, tape the windows, and that will create a seal in combination with the vapor barrier that's already included in the product. For the inside, we're going to use a modern birch plywood. which we think will have a really nice look with some black accents. For instance, like the kitchen cabinets will be in black. So we're going to try to carry that look to the outside as well and do a plywood cladding. You can see that that cladding is kind of off centered from the sheathing so that none of the seams overlap. We think that will help with structural integrity as well as water and other things. For the exterior plywood, we're thinking a marine grade that we would do a traditional pine tar stain to. That's kind of still in the works. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, I'd definitely be interested to hear. Okay, so just a few bullet points to summarize the design. A couple of things that I'm really proud of. The wall studs are 96 inches. The bottom and top plates are either 12 feet or 96 inches. All lumber that's super easy to find and off the shelf. So we're not going to have to do a lot of cutting. Our cuts will be limited to headers and a couple cripples. Not very much at all, actually. So it's going to be a pretty clean puzzle to put together, and I think that will make it fun and enjoyable and more achievable. Really excited to hear what you think about this design, so let me know in the comments below.